Welcome to another edition of Bleav In Lions, brought to you by FanDuel, alongside the star of the show, Glover Quinn, the former All-Pro Lions safety. I am Trevor Thompson, 25 years deep here in the Motor City, covering your pro teams. And today we are glad to be joined by a guy I've known for most of those 25 years here in the Motor City, Tim Twentyman. He spent the last 2 decades as a Lions insider. He is now their senior writer for DetroitLions.com, a guy who can hit a golf ball a country mile as well. But we're here to talk to him about his Lions expertise here this morning. On my radar today, the Lions wide receiver room, a trade that affects the Lions wide receiver room. We're also going to talk about cut down day and Dan Campbell's no turds rule, how that affects cut down day and the moves that may be coming after that. But let's get things started with the guy who's running the show here today, Glover Quinn. Hey, Glover, what you got for Tim Twentyman to start us off here today?
Well, I always have to start out saying, what's up, Timmy? How you doing?
What's up, Glove? How you doing, man? Good seeing you.
Good. Well, I'm the DB, so I'm always talking about the defensive backs because
I knew where this was going to start. I knew.
We just mean so much to the team. We mean so much to the team from on the field stuff. We control the swag in the locker room. We control the swag on travel days. Like, the DBs just mean so much to a team. So I'm just trying to see what's your thought. I saw your article yesterday breaking down the defensive backs and saying that this could be the best line secondary that they've had in a while on paper. A lot of those guys have been injured, throughout training camp, in and out here, there. I've been concerned about the depth per se. A lot of those guys didn't play as much in the preseason as I would have liked to see them play or get some kind of game reps together. But whatever you saw, what are your feelings going into the season with this secondary and the depth that they have?
Yeah, Glover, it's a really talented secondary. You'd know something about that. You guys were pretty talented back in the day when you were leading the league in interceptions and Darius was on the outside. And that was a good secondary. But I have to tell you, in my 16 years covering this team, it's really the strongest that they have looked in training camp. I mean, they beat the offense, pretty much daily in training camp. And I thought it was really telling that the best day that the Lions offense had was the first day of the Miami joint practices when they didn't have to play the Lions defense. I mean, that's just how good they've been. Terry and Arnold, you expect him to make that jump in his second season, right? Glover, that's the time when players take their biggest leap in production. And I thought he really came on strong last year after having some penalty troubles early. But look, he figured out the technique, the speed, everything else. I thought he played really good down the stretch. I think DJ Reed fits this team perfectly with how they want to play man defense, how he gets his nose dirty in the run game. And look, we know what a meat can do. I mean, I think his performance week 18 against Minnesota, when he went outside and shut down Justin Jefferson, was one of the more underrated performances of this secondary. And we haven't even talked about your spot yet, Glover. I mean, that's the best safety duo in the league in Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph. I mean, that was 13 interceptions and 29 passes defended, I think, between those two. And I think before it's said and done, Brian Branch is going to be one of the best, not just safeties, but one of the best defensive players in the league. And so this secondary, the starting five is really, really good. And look, you mentioned the depth, right? And the thing I like about it is it's veteran depth, right? Avonte Maddox has played in Philadelphia. He knows what good secondary play looks like. He's been on Super Bowl teams. He can play safety. He can play nickel. He can play outside. Same thing with Rock Ya-Sin. Hadn't played safety since high school, but the Lions put him back there for like the last 3 weeks of training camp. They liked his ability back there. Another guy who can play safety and corner. So when you talk about depth and Glove, this, like, coaches love that versatility when you're talking about the depth. So not only do they have that, but they've got some experience too. You hated the injury to Ennis Rakestraw that killed the depth a little bit. Jackson, their draft pick, he's out, Dan Jackson. So, that was going to be some of their depth too. But really from the top 7 and 8, even if you include a Khalil Dorsey, who's played football in this league, I really like where the secondary's at and where the depth's at as long as they stay healthy.
And Rocky Ya-Sin, just so I know this correctly, he's number 23, right?
Correct.
So this right here just goes to show you guys, he's the guy I remember talking about him after the first preseason game.
Sure did.
Because he came up and made 2 good tackles, like contact at the goal line against some big running backs. And when you put stuff like that on film, it shows the coaches that you're not afraid to tackle. Like, you are not afraid to tackle. So if we don't have a solidified spot for you as a starting corner, we're going to try you as safety too. We're going to see what you can do. And now you've become a player that, hey, we can use you as a safety. We can use you as a corner. Well, if you got corner skills, now you can be a cover safety for us. Can you play on the slot? Now you got one guy that can be backup at corner if need be, backup in the slot if need be a safety guy, be a special teams guy. That is how you go out and make yourself valuable. And it happened to me. I saw it first game.
I remember that, Glover. Yeah, in the first preseason game, you're like, number 23 is all over the place. That guy is not afraid to throw a lick. That guy is in on every play. He jumped out on you in the first half of the first preseason game. So here he is while we're talking about him right now as the season's getting ready.
Guys, that's a prerequisite to play in Dan Campbell and Kelvin Shepherd's defense. Like, you could be the best cover guy, but if you're not willing to put your hat in the run game, they got no interest in you. It's just part of their scheme. It's an aggressive man cover scheme. You got to be able to play on the edge, get guys down. If you can't tackle, you can't play in this defense. So Avonte Maddox, Rock Ya-Sin, like you mentioned, Glow, those are guys that can tackle, that you feel good about if they need to step in. You don't lose anything schematically. You can still play the same scheme because those guys, just like your starters, are willing tacklers and will put their heads in there.
You guys talked about the DBs, the safeties. I want to get to the wide receiver room right now because some news breaking out of there with a trade. Tim Patrick sent to the Jaguars for a 26th round pick. Obviously, that opens up some room for Isaac Tesla, who looked all world, making Brad Holmes look like a genius for moving up in the draft to get this kid in the 3rd round from what we saw in camp and in the preseason. Tim, your thoughts on that trade? Does it open up space for Tesla? Is that specifically what it was for? Is there another move coming? Give us your insights on that.
Yeah, I think that was pretty much what it was for. I mean, self-admittedly, Tim Patrick said, he didn't have the greatest of camps. But look, here's a guy who caught 33 passes last year, 3 touchdowns, a big body. Those quarterbacks love those 6'5" targets. And he was a proven commodity. But Isaac Tesla was just that good, guys. I mean, he was so good. I mean, like I said, I've been around this league for a long time, and look, Amon-Ra came in and he was very polished as a rookie receiver, but this kid is right there. I mean, he's 6'4", 4'4". I mean, he was winning one-on-ones against DJ Reed, making plays down the field. He catches the ball away from his hands. You saw the 50-50 balls in the preseason. He gives you something on special teams, and it just got to a point where this kid was like, he's going to help us. We've got to play this kid. And so I think that made Tim Patrick a little more available. You obviously pick up an asset, and now it allows you to punch this kid right into the lineup week 1. And look, Dan Campbell's raved about him. He said, look, this kid's going to help us, and he's going to help us early. And now he's going to get an opportunity for that with that spot opened up. It'll be interesting to see if Jackson Meeks now gets an opportunity to come back. I'm pretty sure that was probably a hard decision given the preseason that he had leading the team.
He looked fantastic.
176 yards and a couple touchdowns. Look, he's 6'2", 214, so he's got some size to him too. They like that. We'll see if he gets claimed today. If not, I expected him to revert back to the practice squad, but maybe now there's an opportunity for a roster spot. The Lions do have 3 open roster spots. They went to 50 instead of 53 on their initial roster. So they had some wheeling and dealing going on. They picked up a safety here. By reports, the team hasn't made that official, Danny Thomas, but we'll see pending a physical, where that stands too. But it'll be really interesting, but obviously you've got Amon-Ra 1. Jameson Williams is gonna have a breakout year, guys. And you say, Tim, how can he have a breakout year? He had 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns last year, but they have completely opened up the route tree with him. I mean, it is short stuff, intermediate, and Glove, this. When a guy's got the kind of speed that JMO has, the route that I loved in the preseason was he would give you that go route, right? And you've got to respect that as a cornerback, and you've got to respect that as a safety. But then so many times he would put that foot in the ground, boom, and come back to Jared and complete a bunch of those balls, And that's kind of the elevation of Jamo, I think, is not just using that 4-2 speed to get behind the defense. We know that. But then have that threat, put your foot in the ground, come back, or have that intermediate crosser route where you can run away from a guy across 40 yards of the field and create space that way. John Morton's doing a really good job with Jamo and just increasing the route tree and getting him involved all over the field. And I think that's his evolution, and I think it's going to lead to a monster season for Jamo and really opening up things for everybody else. And then you've got Khalif Raymond. Now you've got Tesla. Obviously, Dominic Lovett, who they drafted, is kind of a slot guy. So, they like the depth that they've got at receiver, and Tesla's going to come in, and they think they've got a receiver for kind of every situation now with Tesla's size, and they like where they're at that position, certainly.
See, I love the depth. I love the names. This is the thing that scares me. And I don't necessarily say scares me, but I do think about it. I love Jamo's progression on the field, the maturity that we're hearing about, seeing. I just want to see it off the field as well, because it seems like every year Jamo he's doing great, and then it's like something happens off the field that takes away his momentum from trouble here, this or that, whatever it is. So maturing on the field is great. I want to see him mature off the field so that he can be on the field each and every week, locked in, ready to go, and have that breakout season and not let something off the field get in the way of that.
No, it's a good point. Availability is the best ability, right? And
right.
So he had some issues early on. It looks like he's gotten past that a little bit. He was obviously available last year, and Lions expect that to continue, hopefully.
Dude is a big play waiting to happen. I mean, he was a 17.3 yards per reception last year. Those are big numbers. And I was on FanDuel, guys, and check this out. And I want to know what your thoughts are on the over-under. I'll go with Jamo first, since he's the guy we're on. And then I'm going to get to Amon-Ra, because these guys are just lethal when it comes to catching the football. But the over-under, I thought, set on FanDuel was rather interesting. I think I know the answer to this, but over-under for total yards, 900.5. Over-under for Jamo on touchdowns this year, 5.5. You guys taking the over on both of those?
Go ahead, Glove.
900 yards and 900 touchdowns?
Yeah. And 5.5 touchdowns.
Ooh. I'm going to take
7 touchdowns in 15 games last year. The dude, like I said, he's a big play waiting to happen.
I was about to say, I'm definitely going to take the over on the 500. I mean, on the 5 touchdowns. The 900 yards. Ooh, that's a good one.
They set these lines, and they're pretty good. He was over 1,000 yards last year, just over 1,000.
Right, but Tesla is going to take some of that away. Amon's going to take his, and if Laporta is healthy, he's going to take his, and you still got Gibbs.
A lot of mouths to feed.
900. I mean, that's. Ooh, I gotta take the over though. It's close.
Yeah, see, you just called for a big breakout, so I'm assuming you're going to take the over. I'm just assuming here.
Yeah, I'm definitely going over on the touchdowns. I think when you include what he does in the run game, the quick screen game, and how they like to get him in space, he's shown the ability to score from really anywhere and just get the ball in his hands. I'm going to go over on the yards too, but I thought Glove had a good one there when he talked about Sam Laporta and how that could take some away. We saw, obviously, the record-breaking rookie season for Laporta, but like Glove said too, there's so many mouths to feed, right? And Laporta is one that I've really been impressed with, his and Jared Goff's chemistry in their third season. I thought he had a terrific spring. I talked to Amon-Ra St Brown right at the last day of the spring practice, the offseason training program. And I said, who's one guy who stood out for you? And without hesitation, his first name was Sam Laporta. Like, he has been amazing this spring. And he, transferred that to training camp, dealt with a little bit of an injury there, missed a couple of weeks, but when he's been on the field, that connection between him and Stafford, or him and Goff has been amazing. And it's something I think John Morton's really good at the matchup game. A lot of pre-snap motions and shifts and trying to get guys in one-on-one coverage and having the defense expose their coverage early because of the motion and get the matchups that he wants. And one matchup that he really likes is Sam Laporta. And that would be one that would maybe take a little bit away from JMO, but I'm still going to go over on both those. He had 1,001 yards and 7 touchdowns last year. Now you add the short and intermediate routes, the comebacks, a lot of the stuff that JMO wasn't doing before. I think he's going to be over on both guys. All
right, so let's get to Amon-Ra. This guy, number 3 receiver in fantasy last year, over 1,000 yards. The over-under for him right now, 1,075 yards for the receiving, 8.5 touchdowns, following up 12 touchdown season last year. Those are the odds on FanDuel for Amon-Ra St. Brown's production this year. Tim, you're shaking your head. What's that mean? What are you doing?
I'm over on that one.
Over on all those too?
I'm over on all those. I mean, he's in rare territory when you talk about, guys in their first 4 seasons. He's up in the top 3 among catches, yards in the history of the NFL through a receiver's first 4 seasons. So look, him and Jared have such a connection. He's your go-to guy when you need a play, when you need a tough catch on 3rd down. Amon-Ra is going to be open, and if you're going to single cover him, that's going to be the guy. And so I just think the history of his consistency has proven that it's over on both those for me.
Yeah, I thought those are pretty pedestrian numbers for a guy. He should feel disrespected by those numbers. So yeah, I definitely expect him to go over on all those. I'm
not a gambling man. I'm not a gambling man, but I do know and have noticed that when they set these lines, I don't know what they know, but somehow, some way, they are right on the money with a lot of these numbers. The guys that do these sports books, I don't know how they do it. They're pretty much on the number. I'm wondering why they would give a guy like this such disrespect, as you just said, Glover. What do you think the reason would be? All the mouths to feed, or what is the changes in coordinators? Why are they turning him down? What would that be?
I definitely think all that goes into it. The coordinator, getting rid of Ben Johnson or losing Ben Johnson. What's it going to be like? Definitely having all the mouths to feed. You got, the number 1 scoring touchdown guy returning in Jahmyr Gibbs. So he's going to get more carries, more attention. Sam Laporta coming back. Jameson, they got a lot of guys. And so
revamp the O-line could have something to do with it too.
And if those guys stay healthy for an entire season, obviously things get kind of skewed when one guy goes down. Then now you got to go to him more. But if those guys stay healthy and can play an entire season, it's gonna be spread out. So I guess they feel like, hey, JMO get 900, Amon gets 1,050, Sam Laporta gets 1,900, Tesla, and so they kind of spreading it out. So I can see it. I don't think it'll play out like that. I think Amon's definitely going to get his yards, but I think that's just come from the team that they have, the coordinators, the players, and just the opportunity. And obviously, at some point, it gets harder to put up numbers. And I think this is one of the things that we don't give great players enough credit for. It's very difficult to go out year in and year out and continually put up big numbers because the other teams are trying to stop you. They know who the go-to guy is. And so for you to be able to continually put up numbers is huge. And Tim said something earlier, and I know it's a little different, but when he talked about Terrion Arnold in year 2, typically when you look at the history, I feel like a lot of receivers have good year 1s, quarterbacks. Those guys may have decent year 1s, and then they hit the sophomore slump, right?
Right.
I think on the defensive side, a lot of DBs struggle in year 1, but then they hit the year 2 boost because they come back. Now they've learned, they've gained a little respect from the officials. Now they're in year 2. And they went through that offseason after year one, grinding it because they realized, oh, this is a tough league, and I got to be ready to go.
Yeah.
Whereas some of these offensive guys, they win all these awards and they get all this attention, and then their offseason looked totally different. And now you come back the next year, the scout teams, we're on those guys. And so then they take a little dip in production. So I would expect Terrion Arnold to have a big year if he can stay healthy. So, I'm going to have to say, I don't know. I'm gonna just stop right there. But I like.
Oh, I want to know where that was going. I want to know where that was going. You can't do that, man.
I like what the Lions are doing. I like the offensive firepower, but I'm interested to see how it's gonna play out with all the mouths they have to feed.
Trev, I thought you made a really good point when you mentioned the offensive line too, because I wanted
to go there next, Tim. I'm glad you picked that up.
Factor as well. I mean, don't forget they lost Frank Ragnow. That center position. I mean, when you lose that, not just what he meant on the field with his ability to get to the second level and the athleticism, but all of the protection stuff and the meetings he had with Jared and how they work together. And look, Graham's played 38 games at center. He's played center with Jared in this league. That part of it, I don't worry about. But you're also, breaking in a brand new rookie right guard. You've got a left guard in Christian Mahogany who, played a couple games last year, looked good doing it, but still pretty young in this league. And so how much maybe does that factor in? Jared Goff is a guy that you got to protect. He's a pocket quarterback. He moves well in the pocket, but he's not a guy that's going to get out wide and create plays on his own. You've got to protect him, allow him to, in this system, get the ball out on time, find the matchup, read the coverage, and make the good, accurate throw, which he does. But that you've got to protect him to do that. So maybe some of those numbers when we were talking about Amon-ra St Brown and some of the pedestrian predictions, maybe that has a little bit to do with the offensive line and some of the questions there too. Can they protect Jared like it's looked the last 2 years when he's played at really an elite level?
Tim, I want you to get into the Dan Campbell no turds rule and exactly what that means going forward for this team and what it meant on cutdown day. You look at the preseason, they're 1-3, outscored by 46 points. A lot of that was trying to figure some things out on the offense, and obviously they didn't have all the starters in there. But obviously there's a culture here. He likes what he's built. He likes where he's going. He likes what he sees in practice and in training camp outside of what the preseason showed us score-wise. But the culture that they're building right now and where they're at right now and the no turds rule, how it applies to where this team is with that chemistry and that culture, what does it all mean and what do you see going forward, filling those last few spots and with the cuts that they did make?
Yeah, it's grit and it's buy-in. Right. And that's what it is. You've got to buy into a team concept. We talked earlier about, Rock Ya-Sin and Avonte Maddox going and playing safety and cornerback. And you see guys play special teams and make that a featured part of their game. It's buying into your role. And they've got a specific role for you that's going to help this football team. And it's a team concept. And there's no me, I've got to get. You've never heard Amon-ra St Brown say, I need more targets. I've got to get this. They want to win. And whatever it takes to do that's the no turds policy. It's get guys who are physical, that play a certain brand of football, that are gritty, and are willing to do anything that the team wants to help this team win. And those are the guys you see kept on the 50-man roster initially. And when they sign guys, those are going to be guys that they sign. Those are going to be guys that they bring back if they clear waivers. Detroit's got a specific role for you. Fill it. Be happy to fill it. Do it to your best ability. They've proven that if you show something, they don't care if you're undrafted, where you came, first-round pick. Dan treats everybody the same. If you can help this football team, you're going to play. And they've proven that over the last 4 years, and that's really what it's about. That's the no turds policy. Just come in, put your head down, help this team, and you'll be rewarded for it.
What do you think the level of concern is with him? He did say he was concerned about some of the things he did not see in the preseason, given the record and the being outscored, the plus minus there of 46. What do you think his concerns are right now? And how valid are they as far as starting the regular season?
Yeah, we've asked Dan this throughout camp. I think we talked about the offensive line there a little bit. That was something early in camp. He said, look, I'm going to be watching the offensive line. That's something I'm focused on. We didn't see those guys in the preseason, but they got good work against the Texans and Miami. Glove, you know about the joint practices, and the starters really get the most out of camp in those joint practices. They get 50, 60 reps against looks they haven't seen. You can control it to limit injuries a little bit. You can put yourself in red zone, in second and longs, in certain situations that, maybe pop up in the preseason, but maybe not. And just teams love it. And they look dominant in those joint practices, especially the first day with Miami. And I'm not talking about just the offense, but the defense too. And I think that was probably a little bit of eye-opening for this coaching staff, being like, oh, okay, I think we're in a pretty good spot. The way we looked against the Texans and Miami in joint practices, I think there's still a little bit of concern. You want to see that offensive line operate, and I think that'll be, something that they keep a close eye on here at the beginning of the season. But I think defensively, Dan's really happy with where they're at. And I don't know if you were out at training camp practice, how you can't be happy about every aspect of that defense. Getting Aiden back, what he means for that defense, having Marcus healthy. Tyleek's looked really good. You're still going to get a lean back. What's that going to look like when those two guys get there? You've got a veteran linebacker group with guys like Alex Anzalone, Derek Barnes, Jack Campbell that have done this in this system for a long time. We talked about the secondary. Defensively, they're good. To me, really the only question mark heading into the season is the interior of that offensive line. What's going to look like? Are they going to be able to do some of the same things they did when Frank was in there in the run game and some of the traps and pulls and second level stuff? They think they can, but I think they've got to still see it play out on the field. That would be the one kind of, maybe, I don't know if it's a concern, but the one thing that people I think are going to be looking at when the season starts.
Yeah, I just get a little concerned because, when you do joint practices, you do get really good work, but like you said, it's controlled. So when you're in red zone, it's the third down period, hey, but in the game, it's kind of like it's gone. You go from, backed up to red zone just like that off a big play. You go from, like it's just different. And so being able to, adjust on the fly, when you in practice, they've went over the plays that you're going to run today. You know what I'm saying? Hey, we're going to run a lot of this stuff today. In the games, yeah, they might say this is the game plan going into it, but they're calling plays based off how the game is going. And so being able to execute in a game situation, I just feel like, there's nothing wrong with getting a couple reps before the real thing. But, they've been doing it for a while. So we got to trust it. It's all hindsight. If the Lions come out and they start out on fire, we're going to be like, oh, Dan's the greatest. If they come out sluggish and slow, we're going to say, you know what? They probably should have played a little bit in the preseason. So we'll see how it goes.
Optimistic. Tim, your thoughts on what we might see this year following a 15-2?
Yeah, people have asked me and friends and just people in passing, have asked me, well, what do you think about this Lions team in 2025? How good can they be? And this is kind of the thing that I tell them, and hopefully it makes sense, is I think that they could be a better football team and lose more games, right, if that makes sense. You won 15 games last year, but you did it with the 30th ranked pass defense. You had some deficiencies a little bit in some spots, and I think the offense is going to be good. We've talked about the weapons, right? I'm not as concerned about the offensive line. I think they'll figure it out. You still got Penei Sewell, Taylor Decker. You've still got some pieces there. And John Morton was on this staff in 2022 when they built this offense around Jared Goff with him and Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson. So he knows the personnel. He knows the system. Obviously knows Jared. And I think that's going to be good. There's just too many weapons on that side of the ball not to be good. And then can that defense take the next step? Can Aiden and Marcus be that duo? Can they pressure quarterback? Can they marriage the rush and cover better than they have in the past? And everything tells me that they can, but look, they've got to go to Baltimore. They got to go to Cincinnati. They've got to go to Kansas City. They got to go to Philadelphia. You guys can stop me now. They've got to go to the Los Angeles Rams, and we haven't even talked about the NFC North yet. So, I think they can be a better football team, especially if that defense takes the step that I think they're going to take this year. And they could maybe lose more games, but that's okay because, look, they've been cut short of their ultimate goal the last 2 years, right? You need to be hardened. You need to be playing your best football, and Glove will tell you this. You need to be playing your best football in December, in January. And so, I think this road schedule, this schedule overall, it's got to harden you, right? I mean, you're going to play some tough games, some primetime games. It's going to be all different days, nights, days. Yeah. I mean, you're going to be hardened, and I think that's going to help them in the long run. Hopefully that's the secret sauce, right, guys, to get past what they haven't been able to get past in the playoffs the last 2 years.
Exactly. I mean, I've said it this whole time that I would not like to see them go 15-2 again. I want them to lose. Like, they need to go through and, like you say, get hardened. Like, you need that. That's going to build the character that they need, I feel like, to make I don't even want to say a deep playoff run, because they've already been to the NFC Championship. They got to get past that. So at this point, we got to say to make a Super Bowl run. I think we got to say that's what they're going to need to make a Super Bowl run.
And we'll see it all begin to shake out on September the 7th in Green Bay. Our thanks to Tim Twentyman, breaking it down like no other, the DetroitLions.com senior writer and insider. Tim, thanks. We're going to have you on throughout the season, giving us what you just delivered today, all the goods on Bleav In Lions, brought to you by FanDuel.
Yeah, enjoyed it, guys, anytime.
Appreciate you.